2,400 divorces are recorded in the United States daily, which means that almost 900,000 marriages are broken up each year, leaving almost 1 million families with a legacy of pain, destruction, and trauma. That's why I'm so excited today to introduce our studio guest to you, Brandon Dirksen. Brandon is the founder of the Marriage Academy for men who are ready to invest in their marriages and win back their wives' trust, respect, and affection. Brandon, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course, Lorna, thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Brandon, marriages and counseling for men, that is a profound combination because, I see a lot of counseling for women working on their emotional intelligence and on inner healing and mental health. But I must be honest, personally, I have not experienced a lot of men in this area. So how did you get into this?
Well, I got here because of my own journey. And that journey started back in 2019 when my marriage was about to fall apart. I was in full-time ministry, and we had been married in full-time ministry together from the day we got married. So I've done missions work all around the world. I've been a pastor. I've spoken at tons of churches, and my marriage was still falling apart. And so what made the difference for me and why I'm sharing my story now and wanting to help other men is I realize that there's so many conflicting things that men hear about what they need to do, what they don't need to do. And most of it is so overwhelming that most men never start the journey to heal. Because when you choose to say that you need help, that's a vulnerable thing because you're believing that somebody somewhere else could help you. And you're also believing that kind of breaking down these walls around you that create protection is a good idea. And for most men, from what they've seen, they don't want to become like the example that they see out there in other men. It feels safer to not ever start the journey to heal. And so my goal is to use authenticity in sharing my own story and give actionable, clear steps that men can take so that they can actually start to see changes without all of the guesswork of, is it worth it for me to take that step out? Because it is scary. There's no easy thing about it. It's scary to think that, well, my marriage isn't going well. To admit that to yourself, to accept that things aren't going well is a scary place to be in. That means that there is, like you said, that there is a chance for divorce. Divorce is happening every day. And men would rather hide behind the facade that everything's okay and that maybe even that their wife is the problem because it feels easier and it's less burdensome to live in that place of denial. So I'm here and I'm sharing the message I am because I know what it's like to be in denial. I know what it's like to be shut down. And I also know what it's like to begin to feel connected to my wife for the first time and see other men begin to go on that journey. And it's 1,000% worth it to heal your marriage. It's 1,000% worth it to be in touch with yourself as a man, to know what emotions you're feeling, to know how to communicate well. You'll make more money. You'll do better at your job. You'll experience more fulfillment. So there really is, although it seems like there's all these downsides to working on your marriage because it's scary, it can only get better.
I love that. And, I heard something very profound the other day. They say that a bad marriage is the closest to hell that you can be in. And a great marriage, or a good marriage even, is the closest to heaven that you can be in. And I'm, I can absolutely relate to that. I mean, when things go bad, that it's bad, right? It really feels like you're living in I don't want to say hell. Hell is such a strong word. I heard this and I think, oh, that's a little bit strong, but it's pretty close. When things are really not going well, it really can become unbearable. You had a video on your Instagram, and I would honestly really urge our guests to go and take a look at your Instagram feed, because you have profound wisdom, literally, weekly and daily. You have these incredible little clips with this just wisdom. But one of your clips really touched on strong women, that a strong woman needs an emotionally strong man. And that is something that we can really start seeing in society now, that women have all this uplifting of women and woman power and women, in the workplace, and women are really being pushed and uplifted into powerful positions and areas in life. But something that you touched on so profoundly is that with a powerful woman needs to become a more powerful, intelligent man, because otherwise we're going to have a problem. And that is definitely an area that has been lacking, right? Why did that video come up, and what would you say about that emotional intelligence in men? How do they become more powerfully intelligent emotionally?
Absolutely. Great question. I'm smiling because my wife is a strong woman. And what I mean by a strong woman is a woman that has taken on the identity that she's fully capable. She might be very successful in her job. She's probably leading around the house with the kids, with prepping, with organization. And in society, like we talked about, women have been weakened. Their voices have been weakened. And there's kind of this uprising of women recognizing, wow, I'm just as capable of a man, if not more capable in certain domains. And I think that liberation movement is so powerful, and it also creates a new problem, because men don't want to be seen as controlling. They don't want to be seen as domineering. So then a lot of men are taking the back seat. They're saying, okay, I won't share my opinion. I won't get in the way. I don't want to make her upset. I'll just say, whatever you want, honey, that's fine with me. And what ends up happening is your strong woman, or your fully capable woman, which is every woman on the planet, she just might be displaying that she's leading in life and in a lot of domains. We'll just say the highly successful, motivated woman, she doesn't want you to be opinionless as a husband. She doesn't want you to be disengaged, to not care about where you're going to go out to eat, to not care about where you're going to go on vacation. She actually wants your engagement. And so the response to the strong feminine energy, if we want to call it that, is not to back down and be disengaged. And so the power that men can step into is having an opinion, having the skills to communicate what they're thinking, and not be offended if your wife is thinking something else. So that's where this all collides, is the two of you, although you are one, when you get married, you're becoming one. You're not the same person. You're going to have different opinions. You're going to have different viewpoints. And the goal is not to make one person less powerful than the other. The goal as a man in the relationship is to bring this structure, the frame that creates stability, that creates safety. And you can do that by making sure that your wife is feeling validated, reflecting, okay, I'm hearing you say you really want to go here. And you can make sure she's feeling like, okay, he's got me. And then when you respond, it's making sure she understands that that you grasp her, that she can feel you. It's a felt energy. It's not just, okay, he's repeating back the words I said. She can feel you. And then you share, here's what I was thinking, and you come together with that. And so a lot of men are intimidated to do that because they don't really want to deal with an upset wife. And
I don't think they know.
You go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think they know how. Right.
Yeah.
I think a lot of men just really don't know how to deal with an upset wife. We see this quite often, when I've ever watched little marriage seminars or videos or something, that, when women get upset, like you say, the first thing a man wants to do is just retreat, like, she's upset, how do I fix this? I need to fix this, and I need to fix her. It's the worst thing you can do to an upset woman is try and fix her, or fix this situation. But like you were saying, it's just to hear, being validated. That is such a powerful thing. And I think the profound truth here is that to get that training to be able to hear your wife and your husband. I mean, this goes both ways. We're talking a lot about men today because you work mainly with men, but obviously it goes both ways. You have another profound truth that you talk about, and that is connecting during conflict. Let's elaborate on that a little bit more, because is that even possible? how do we connect in conflict? Because if I think of conflict, a lot of time cups are flying, doors are slamming, voices are raised, and emotionally we're just not thinking anymore with our brains. Then we're just, things are just flying. It's a nice.
You're in the survival mode. Yeah, let's talk about conflict. And I think it goes hand in hand with that emotionally validating your wife and your husband. The reason I primarily talk to men and making men responsible is because I'm a man. So it doesn't make sense for me to say, women, you need to do this. We're all on the same team. And so what you can do in conflict is there's a couple of contributors that make conflict more intense than it needs to be. And one of those is repeat issues. If you have an issue or something that's coming up that's a repeat thing, the tolerance or the patience is already gone. And so one of the things you can do to eliminate those situations is you actually have to fix the issue at hand. And so a lot of times you're arguing about how you felt because you're upset that once again let's just say you left all the dishes in the sink when you had told your wife you were going to take care of them. If it's a repeat issue, of course she's going to be upset, and then you're going to defend. And so what needs to happen is the expectations, a clear communication of what the expectation is and what you're hoping to see happen, and learning to voice why you're frustrated. Because if you really want to bring what it is you want to communicate to the other person. So conflict is done well when you share, hey, this thing that's going on, it's impacting me in this way. So using more I statements than you statements. Because if I say, Lorna, you did this, you're already you're backing up, because it's like,
you're going to defend, right?
Instead of using I statements. I was feeling a little overwhelmed when I noticed this, or I was caught off guard when this happened. When you make I statements and you use them clearly to display the emotion, if you communicate emotion, that's what leaves space for your partner to be able to validate you. When you say you, your partner can't actually respond to any of that. They only can go to facts or defending themselves. And so in conflict, if you use I statements and you make a reasonable ask, I was taken back when I saw the dishes left out when you said you're going to take care of them. In the future, can you please, follow through on your word? Pause and then respond from that place.
Oh, that's so powerful. That's absolutely the truth. I think what you're mentioning is that repeat. When you've been married, especially for 25 years or 30 years, or it's coming a long time. And like you're saying, there's just certain things that are just not changing. It can become very frustrating. And even though it's small things, it can feel very big at the time. Brandon, when you realized this in your marriage, what was it that made you search for help? Because honestly, for me, seeing a guy reach out for emotional help and starting this whole platform about emotional well-being and emotional help for men is definitely new. I have not seen that. I have a little marriage group on a Sunday evening, and most of those people, out of the 20 couples that I've invited, it's the women who brought the husbands. Most of them sometimes even come without the husbands. A lot of women actually attend without their husbands. So how did this happen for you? How did you decide that you are the one that has to make this change in your marriage?
I get that question all the time. And the raw, most authentic answer is I didn't make that choice. It wasn't a heroic, I'm on this journey to heal decision. I made that choice out of obligation due to my situation, which was my wife was in so much pain at my cycles of lying and hiding that I finally realized, this was 4 years into our marriage, that she actually didn't have the tolerance for the pain I was putting her through anymore. And when the pain of staying for a woman or husband, but we'll just talk about for a woman to stay, the pain of staying sometimes is greater than the fear of leaving. And so when you start to see that your wife is feeling more, when I was starting to see that my wife was feeling more certainty, more safety at the thought of no longer being with me than dealing with the pain of staying, that's when I was like, oh my word, like I we got to change something or this isn't going to last. And I was in ministry and I was doing all these things for God and all these things, all this volunteer work, all these things that made me feel good and gave me my identity. And one of the best things that happened was I actually had to step down from my position in ministry. So I wasn't in ministry for the first time in my life. I was face to face with myself. I went to a counselor who didn't know all of the good accolades I had, didn't like me just from being in a social setting together. And he helped me see the reality of what my actions were causing my wife, the pain that lying to her and the betrayal from my actions. And for the first time, I realized, wow, I can't just smile my way out of this. I can't just get somebody to like me and affirm what I'm doing and get my wife to make them think that she's the controlling one. Like, I can't defend or deflect this situation anymore. The problem was I had been trying to heal previously. I had been trying to change these behavior patterns and nothing was working. And so what ended up happening was I had to be face to face with myself. And that's what all men need to come to, this place of radical acceptance that you're broken, that there is baggage from your childhood, that there might be sexual brokenness, sexual trauma that's been unresolved, that there is belief patterns that you have. I'm a Christian, but belief patterns about your Christian faith that actually make you control your wife, believe God doesn't like you, and believe that you're going to be prone to doing bad things the rest of your life. So there's all this baggage that we have, that I had, and until I came face to face with it, I was repeating the same cycles. And one of the biggest things that most men get to when you're at this rock bottom place is a lot of men, like I was, are numb, completely numb emotionally. And so you can't feel anything. All you can feel is anger, because that's the only one that doesn't go away. Is all emotion and nuance can go away, but anger remains. So all you feel is angry at the world, angry at everybody. And so for men, if you're listening to this, or wives listening to this, there does have to be a pattern interrupt. You might lose your job. There might be a family emergency. Something has to wake you up, because you're not just going to wake up tomorrow and say, I'm going to start healing. And so for me, it was recognizing that there is safety, that there is comfort in seeking help, that there is power available to you when you lock arms with other men. I joined a men's group to work through a specific clinical term called intimacy anorexia. And I was on the phone with other men every day, meeting with our counselor once a week. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a pattern. This is something that other men are working through. And the comfort in not traveling alone. You know, they say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Wow.
And so that's been the awakening I had, was the facade of trying to build your life on a house of cards. When you're building something on a foundation that is not real, it can only last for so long. And no man wants to build his marriage, his family, his future on something that's not real. And so what I'm calling men to is to embrace reality, as uncomfortable as that is. Embrace the fact that things are not where you want them to be. Embrace the fact that you have some healing to do. And man to man, you can do it. It's not as scary as you think. When you come clean with yourself, come clean with those around you, instantly there is power that is released for you to become a renewed version of yourself. And I didn't discover that until I lost everything, until everything started crumbling. And so if you're in that place where your life is unraveling, just let it happen and get curious. The more curious you can get about your healing, the more healing that will happen.
I love that. And just start, right? Start somewhere. Reach out. Yes. Reach out for help. That's such a powerful thing that you said now, that when you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, you know, draw in that help. Do it together. Do it together. That is super powerful. I think there's such a great strength in being married. You know, we had this whole revelation recently in our home group, marriage home group, with the power that comes with being married, and how this power is really being destroyed by small things. And if we don't search and reach out to change those small things, nothing is really going to change. We need to change, right? Yeah. I love it. You have been absolutely amazing, Brandon. Just a last little bit of motivation or just something to the men and the women out there before we close, because literally you've been so fantastic. We've run out of time. One thing for women, you know, that can see your Instagram page and everything, and they want their husbands there. Does it work? Does it work to push a man into something like that, or is it something that you feel like men really have to kind of figure out for themselves? What would be the best way for moving forward?
For listening that are wanting to know like what role they play in this healing process, I recently posted that the role you can play is to live healthy, live a whole life independent of what your husband's currently doing. And so you don't have to lower your frequency, lower your quality of life because he's numbing out. You can choose to live engaged in community. You can choose to do your part and not settle. So for my first thing I tell women is don't settle for what if your husband's in a numbed out state. You live and you keep going. Your life doesn't stop. And setting boundaries that are like, look, I'm going to be living this way. I'm not going to settle for this stuff in our home. Like you can get help, or like, you know, like we can get other people involved. Like I know people don't really like making ultimatums, but some women wake up 20 years from now, 20 years after they've been married, and it's like the husband's not a single bit different. And so sometimes you do have to say like, look, I need you to make these changes or our relationship can't continue. And it's like, if they say, I don't need help. Great. Then just go through the motions with me. Just come to counseling with me. Then if it's so easy, just come. Yeah. So I would say for women that you're probably doing more than you realize. And, you know, if you want to pray, you can pray for God to wake him up, wake him up, and for circumstances to come in that would wake him up. And for men, just get curious. If you're a guy listening to this, it's a reframe that power comes from getting curious. Power comes from that growth mindset of I'm going to grow. I'm curious what else is possible for me. So my goal is to make emotional healing attractive to men. The men will be like, man, like I want a life like that. I want to feel more empowered. I want to enjoy life, because life is felt through our emotions. And if you don't feel any emotion, if you don't feel any enjoyment about your life, then it's not really worth living. And so for men to be able to see, man, there is so much more to life, to marriage, than I'm currently experiencing, and I'm willing to pay the price to go on that journey.
I love it. Thank you so much, Brandon. Yeah, I love it. Keep moving forward, keep pushing, don't settle. Let's keep moving forward, and I love that. Thank you very much. Brandon, thank you for joining us. We're all out of time, but we'll definitely do this again, for sure.
Amazing. Lorna, thank you so much for having me on the show.
And that is it from me, Lorna Grayling and Woman Power. If you would like to get in touch with Brandon, take a look on the screen. His details is going to be on there. Follow him on his Instagram page. He really has profound wisdom on there. And from our side, if you want to follow us on YouTube, we would really appreciate that. Like, comment, and share. We really need your support to be able to make more shows. And until next week, goodbye.